Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. Here we have Joseph on Saga Storm versus Michael on a Jeskai build, the Saga Storm list, also called Black Saga Storm, something that Tony Schiappone has been innovating with, and it is a whole new flavor of Storm deck. It actually runs Duress, a card often maligned as not legacy playable, but in this deck it is a critical mass of discard spells. We're talking Duress, Cabal Therapy, Thoughtseize. That is what's going to be clearing the way, either punching through a lethal combination of spells or just keeping your opponent's hand clear of any answers to your onslaught of Urza's Saga constructs, something that can happen very easily. We see here already an Urza's Saga on board, and that's going to represent quite a bit of damage in a land. Be able to pump out a couple of constructs and tutor up an artifact, often Lion's Eye Diamond. And we've got a Wishclaw Talisman also needs to be answered, which it is. We've got a counterspell hitting the Wishclaw Talisman. Wishclaw, kind of a delayed tutor. You can sneak that out when your opponent's counter magic is down and activate it later on. These are not working. We're going manual here. So counterspell hit the Wishclaw. Teferi showed up, bounced the Urza's Saga. Thoughtseize taking a shot at Michael's hand. Teferi, interesting tempo play, bouncing the Saga, drawing a card. Also able to cast sorceries as though they had flash can be useful here. We see Ponder and Prismatic Ending, both interesting cards, though it may not come to that. We have a Infernal Tutor, LED cracking in response, and an Ad Nauseam put on the stack. Storm already halfway there. Very low curve here from 16. This should be nearly certain. Of course, with Ad Nauseam, nothing's ever 100% certain. You're going to basically be looking for Lotus Petal here to keep things going. So far, some Lion's Eye Diamonds. Down to 3 and still no petals. Wow. Now down to 1. That is, I would say, a rather unlucky Ad Nauseam. From 16, you're usually just winning on the spot, even if you've made your land drop. Like, Joseph's just going to be sculpting the best hand he can from here. Got a bauble. Trying to figure out what he wants to keep. A little bit of a question as to whether or not he should just play out a bunch of acceleration, keep extra cards in hand. Oh, there is a Lotus Petal. Missed that. Lotus Petal with no Dark Ritual, nothing to get that ball rolling. Ball Ritual requiring 2 mana. Of course, as I mentioned, playing out acceleration, you got to keep in mind the access to Prismatic Ending, which could blow up a Lion's Eye Diamond. Still could in response to this Duress. We'll see what Michael fires off. Ponders. There are times where using a Prismatic Ending on the LED here could be phenomenal. There are other times where you're just adding to your opponent's storm count. It's really going to depend on their overall mana. Got 3 available, plus a Cabal Ritual. He finds the Force of Will. The rest takes the Prismatic Ending. And now the Cabal Therapy clears the rest of the way. And there we go. That is that critical mass of discard, just totally disabling your opponent's hand. after and ad nauseum. Beforehand, just punching through, opening that window, be able to sneak in a game-winning spell. Even if you don't get there, which is unusual, you're still going to have a bunch of discard to go after your opponent's hand. And this deck, post Veil of Summer just being everywhere, this deck is extremely dangerous. I mean, if you're running Veil of Summer, much less scary. You still have to worry about the Sagas. It's a well-constructed deck that can certainly punish all sorts of defensive draws. But Veil of Summer is so powerful in what it does, especially in multiples, where you're essentially denying that discard spell, drawing a card, so kind of swinging it in the other direction. A keto style, they're trying to use resources to take you down, and instead they're just taking themselves down. And then on top of it, you can't be hit with Tendrils of Agony that turn either. So it really is, a time walk effect where you're getting an extra card and just immune for a turn. Of course, you can still get your teeth rattled by a bunch of construct tokens if the game has progressed to that point. And Saga Storm, I would say, probably the closest to vintage in terms of the raw power level for Urza's Saga. I run the card Encephalid Breakfast, and it's pretty medium in terms of the ability to go with the beatdown plan. I mean, you're basically putting together 7 damage off of 1 land, which is not nothing, and have won a few games off of it, but with this Black Saga Storm, those constructs very often in the double digits, pretty effortlessly. A pair of constructs along with a bunch of artifacts. Petals, baubles, LEDs, wish claws, artifact lands. It all adds up very fast. So classic Brainstorm in response to duress, protecting the goods. I'm sure Joseph would rather take whatever's on top of the library. And there we go, Null Rod. That is a graphic card versus this deck. So many artifacts. I'll tell you, Null Rod is one of those weird cards as far as wording goes. It's from from Weatherlight along with Abeyance, and the cards are worded the same way and do not work the same way. That is one of my few grievances with the way that Magic has handled bans and restrictions and power level errata. Generally don't say too much about it, but yeah, get Null Rod and Abeyance on the same page. I think it's totally ridiculous that they're worded the same way, but don't work the same way. While we're at it, my other thought is Mana Drain would be fine in the Legacy as well. We did see a vanilla counterspell. I think it'd be totally fine. Hull Breacher just beaten down. Going on story time here. This is not going to be much of a game. Joseph completely muckled by this Null Rod. Just a casual meltdown, waiting in the wings. If necessary, can get a 5 for 1. And Joseph's questioning his life at this point, perhaps? Just his decisions that have led him to this point? Perhaps thinking about how he's going to be coming back in game number 3, which he'll have the play for. All right, a little break there. Nice thing about Fast Effect, we can skip over prolonged breaks in the action. Might have been a pizza break. No. Audio on these feeds. cEDH Traders allowing for a construct. Got a pair of constructs coming out fast. Lion's Eye Diamond, I believe, grabbed off of the Saga, and another Saga into a Wish Claw. Things have commenced. Pair of 5/5s right now. Turn likely going to be 6/6s at least. It could just be lethal. We could see a 0 casting cost artifact along with an activation. Birds of Saga. Meltdown would be really good. We'll do here. 3 mana to Fury, bouncing a construct. Duress. Seeing quite the fistful of cards here. Prismatic Ending taken. So the removal, as we talked about earlier. Falling victim to the discard spells. Our set's going to go ahead and dig. Try and find some more removal. There is already a Wishclaw on board, however, so things could go wrong very quickly, despite a Force of Negation and Force of Will in hand. Urza's Saga. Tutoring up. Got a Force of Negation. Swinging for lethal. There we go. So a couple of little half-hearted attempts prior to damage, but at the end of the day, those constructs are going to push through lethal damage, despite Michael having an absolutely stacked hand, which normally would have been fine, versus so many combo decks. This backup plan from Black Saga Storm, it is legitimate. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.